I am, yeah.
The only psycho here is me.
Who will be coming?
Awesome. I can't wait, man. I fully enjoy my Baz is supposedly coming.
We're gonna overwhelm each other, so.
I got a question.
Belong. Those belts were around their waist. Hold on. Let me speak.
Finally, we've been waiting for you to come.
This
All right, now just announced by Mr. Joel Maximo. What else we got?
Lucas wants a new belt.
Whoa.
I wish I could, what is it, big?
That's not even the real 2036.
Snapchat?
no sense.
Alright.
But today I got a very special guest.
If you don't know who I am,
I will never follow Papa Dank on Twitter.
Have been my favorite wrestlers, and it's like the first time.
Welcome everybody to Beyond the Barricade. I'm your host, Papa Dank, and I got some very special guests today. All the way from St. Louis, Missouri. The one, the only Herb Simmons. How you doing?
Hey, Papa, how you doing? Appreciate the invite again, and it's always a pleasure. You're one of the hardest working guys out there. I'm telling you,
Thank you.
Appreciate
Appreciate
it. Seems like you got somebody on there.
Yeah, it's not easy. Definitely not. Let me bring to you your special guest joining us, your SICW champion, the one and only, the Big Texan.
How's it going, guys?
How you doing? How you doing? And today we're going to be talking about FanFest 2 coming up in May 18th. Make sure you go get your tickets at sicw.org. This is going to be huge.
Yeah, it's growing leaps and bounds. I'm telling you, we did the first one back in May. Everybody said we were nuts, and when I announced we were going to do one in 2024, they said I was double nuts. So, yeah, we're up to over 55 of legends and special guests, and every day somebody's calling and asking to be a part of it. So it's going to be the who's who of wrestling.
Huge guest, man. We'll go over some of them right now. Stan Hansen will be there.
Yeah, just talked to him on the phone yesterday. Yeah, the Big Texan and the Stan. I kid him all the time, tell him he's trying to outdo that lariat from Stan.
I try my best.
Yeah,
Missy Hyatt.
Yeah, Missy Hyatt was just a recent entry this a couple days ago. Lucky P. Esquire. Our pain. You ever get that little pain in the rear end? It just hurts all the time. Well, that's kind of what Lucky P. Larson Esquire is. He does some of our color commentating, and plus he manages the SICW tag team champions. And he's got an infatuation with Missy Hyatt, so he's the one who got her to come in. So if you want to see Missy Hyatt, be there on May the 18th.
All right. We also got Jimmy Valiant coming aboard.
Oh, the great, the Boogie Woogie Man. I tell you, that's if you haven't been in the presence of the Boogie Woogie Man, he's great.
Greg the Hammer Valentine, who I grew up watching.
Oh yeah, well, Texan,
Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Texan, that's one of your favorites, there, ain't it?
He is my favorite. Yeah, he was the first legend that I was able to wrestle, and he always holds a place in my heart for that. So
awesome. Debbie Combs will be there.
Yeah, Debbie and her mom wrestled for me back in the late 70s and 80s. Her and Cora, great lady. It's going to be fun to see Cora back in St. Louis. I mean, Debbie.
Awesome. Mr. Dr. Tom Pritchard will be there.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Tom trained a lot of the talent that's out there and still doing it to this day. I'm looking forward to having Dr. Tom in.
Mickey Simmons is watching, Herb.
Oh, that's the spark behind the knock. Believe me. So
Let's talk about Dr. Tom Pritchard for a moment more, because you and I both know AJ Kazana is dying to be at FanFest.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I'd like to get him in here. I'll tell you.
He's ready to go. He was telling me all about it on the podcast we had.
Yeah, and like I said, there's not a day going by that I'm not getting calls from around the country. Basically, people wanting to come in because they heard it went over so well last year, and I think Texan, you can attest to that. You were there. You helped put this all together, the whole locker room.
I tell you, the best thing about fan fests like these is being able to sit down with the legends you grew up watching and just picking their brain, getting pointers. Most of them,
Right.
we had the wrestling show with the fan fest, combined, and a lot of them sat with the audience, with the regular people, and watched the wrestling show. So they were able to give us feedback. But honestly, just seeing some of these guys while they're still around, because we had a lot, pass away the last few years. So, I always tell everyone, just come out. If you're a fan, if you weren't a fan, if they were the heel, back in the day and you couldn't stand them, still come, listen to them, get an autograph, get a picture. Just come and meet these guys. These guys are legends.
Absolutely. Let's bring up the main poster real quick.
Yeah, if you do this singly like you were, man, it'll take you forever.
Yeah, and that's not even up to date. Like I said, there's probably 4 or 5 that's not on there. We ran out of poster, but we're making a new one, and I predict we'll be up to about 65 between now and probably the show.
That's crazy. Tito Santana, Jimmy Hart, Bob Orton, Teddy Long, the Godfather himself. He's such a nice guy, the Godfather. I met him at a convention. So nice.
Yeah. Dan the Beast Severin, the Rock and Roll Express.
That's right. Abdullah the Butcher.
Miranda Gordy, who, is the daughter of Bam Bam Gordy. Dr. Tom, as we talked about, Coco Beware,
Coco.
Manny Fernandez. We got 3 or 4 of the Glow Girls coming in. So
amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely want to go to this event.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and we've kept it real reasonable. If they go to sicw.org, you can go on there and pick the package you want. We've added a second day, the Friday, the May 17th. Bill Apter will be there doing his one-man show, and if you've never seen that, you're in for a treat. That's a VIP night. You'll have to have that ticket to get in to see Bill do his show. But then Saturday at 10 it starts. We got the Hall of Fame induction. We got 5 members going into that. We got the Sam Muchnick Award being awarded. And then, of course, the Bruiser Brody Battle Royal. Barbara Goodish will be there to present the winner of that Battle Royal, that big trophy.
That's awesome, man. Bruiser Brody, I just saw Chavo Guerrero mention him not like a couple of days ago, actually. He's one of the greats that he admired.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of these guys, as the Texan can tell you, that just grew up watching Bruiser Brody and just to this day will talk about how great he was.
Hands down. I mean, you have the people that like the Hulk Hogan's, and then you like the people that like the heels and the villains, and Bruiser Brody was like both, depending on where he was. But man, everything was real when it was coming from Bruiser Brody,
Well, and the thing, and a lot of people don't realize that the match that everybody wanted to see back then was Hulk Hogan against Bruiser Brody, and it was in the making. It was close to being a done deal, and I had the pleasure of sitting in on some conversations that Brody was having with Larry Matisek, and the only thing is there was a thing called trust that both sides were not doing. Vince and his people weren't trusting Brody, and of course Brody knew he couldn't trust that side, and they had a plan set up to where if there was going to be another screw job, as we say in the business, Frank had a backup plan, which involved the likes of Crusher Blackwell and people like that. But unfortunately, that match never did get to take place.
Absolutely.
But it'd have been big. It'd have been a big box office, I can tell you.
Oh my God, the money that thing would have drew. But I tell you, I won that Bruiser Brody Battle Royal once, and you're fighting off 20, 30, depending on how many people Herb lets in this time.
Last year was 32.
Yeah, and just to have the widow of Bruiser Brody come into the ring, and it's not like a small little trophy that this thing is very tall. It is well worth being called a trophy, and to have her hand that off to me, and I mean, no words can describe the feeling. You feel connected to Bruiser somehow. You know, the widow standing right next to you, holding a trophy that's in his honor. Like I said, no words will actually describe that feeling that you get when you win this thing.
Well, then you got the crowd just doing that Brody chant, and I think that just gives you the goosebumps. And Barbara says that all the time when she comes to St. Louis for me, here and everywhere. But St. Louis was special to Brody. He loved Sam Muchnick. He loved Larry Matisek, and that's why you know, when Larry decided to help Barbara write the book, it was based on him coming to St. Louis a lot because he just felt like St. Louis was home to him, basically home away from home.
Well, Mark says Hogan versus Brody would have been as big as Hogan versus Andre was. No doubt.
Oh,
No doubt about
definitely.
that. No doubt about that.
No doubt about that. Now, did you get the new Powertown figure of Bruiser?
Oh yeah. I had one. Barbara sent me a special one, and it's in my collection. And
Awesome.
I tell my wife, it gets. Of course, I've got so much stuff getting buried with me. I don't know what. I keep telling everybody my wife's going to have the biggest bonfire when I leave this great earth because he's not going to know what to do with everything I've collected over the years. You know. So
Man, I need to get that fig. I just ordered the Von Erich one, the limited one that they put up.
yeah.
I thought about that one. That looks pretty cool.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
what,
they're-
they done a great,
They're almost
you know,
sold out on it. They only made 2,000 of that one.
Well, Greg Gagne is the one I helped facilitate getting a lot of the people on board for him, and you know, they really wanted Brody and of course Barbara and there's a lot of guys that, you know, in the job they did on those is just outstanding.
Amazing.
You can look at them; they're the best I've ever seen. And
I've seen one.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I've
just
seen one.
great.
I
So,
need
yeah,
one, but I've seen them.
yeah, but it's they're great. And you know, early on when they were trying to figure out which ones they were going to go with to start the first production, that was about a 6-month ordeal.
Oh, really?
They decided to come up with the first ones they were going to come out with.
The
So
first
I
batch.
was glad Brody made the cut. You know, yeah. So.
Yeah.
You had to start it off big, and there's no one else, you know, bigger than Brody. And you know, they had Vernon Gagne and they had Lou Thesz, you know, all the top, you know, people. So yeah, I mean, that was a great first series.
And the
Yeah.
first Kerry Von Erich too.
Carrie,
Yeah.
Carrie.
The original
Look,
one.
I mean, and it looks great, I'll tell you. But you know, and that was the thing about Brody. A lot of fans, you know, they loved him. He was loved everywhere he went. But you know, they didn't realize he was the first wrestler on the in the business that went out independently. And we were the first ones that he started really on a regular basis doing the independent shows for here in the St. Louis and Illinois in the Midwest. And I was just so fortunate that my best friend Larry Matisek is the one who made that connection for me. And from then it was just, man, it was like I was the kid at the candy shop. You know, at that time he was larger than life. I mean,
Right.
he was on television and you know, Texas down with Fritz, and of course I had the honor of sitting in Sam's office with Larry early on when Fritz would come to St. Louis and sit there. And you know, Larry, Sam always told us what's said in this office stays in this office. And man, I'm telling you, the conversations that you could sit there and I tell Jim if I ever get my book completed, there would be some of that information in there. You know.
I definitely want a copy of that book.
Right.
Well,
Signed,
After
though.
him
I
for
want it
years
signed.
to write a book.
it's in the making, but boy, it's a, you know, when you
It's a lot
start
to cover. Right.
oh my God. Well, and Larry always told me back in the, because, you know, he wrote all of his books and then helped Barbara with the Brody book. But even the ones that he wrote other than that, he always told me, oh, Herb, you ought to write a book, just not on wrestling, just about everything else you've done. But the bulk of it is wrestling because that's been what I've done, you know, while everybody is out watching the baseball games and the football games. And I'm watching an old wrestling tape of Dick the Bruiser against Johnny Valentine or, you know, Gene Kaniski against Killer Kowalski, you know. So for the better part of my life, that's what I've done. So if I write a book, that's got to be the majority of what it is. And maybe one or two people will read it, but who knows?
I'll read it.
Right.
All right, Big Texan. Let's start off with some of your history. How you got involved with professional wrestling? What made you fall in love with it?
Well, mainly it's my dad's fault. I'll just blame him. His favorite thing to do was watch wrestling. So he was watching wrestling at the Chase. He was a WWF guy, and one of our favorite things. I have an older brother, and we would all three just sit around the TV, and that was our time with our father. So we would sit there and watch wrestling. Of course, when I was watching it was the recaps of the replays of the wrestling at the Chase. And also he looked like Hulk Hogan because he's bald on top, got the long hair around, and it was blonde, and he swung a hammer all of his life for his job. So he had the big biceps. And so, I don't know, the little kid brain of mine put two and two together and said, he must be that guy on TV or something,
Right.
But I was always hooked on wrestling. He would buy me the action figures, the ring and everything. So I would just be on my own playing. But I was an owner, well, not owner. I was an operator of a Quick Lube. And one of the local wrestlers came through and just looked at my size. I've always been a big guy. I'm almost, believe it or not, the TV probably doesn't add as much weight as it should. And I'm about 375, 380, but I'm constantly in the gym. But, I'm also like 6'2", probably was 6'3" before I shrunk. But so big guy. So he just looked at me. He goes, "You know what? You ever thought about being a professional wrestler?" I said, "Every day." And he was like, "I know a place where we can start training you." And then, 20 plus years in the business, and I'm still in it. So
I know what you're talking about size.
And can you imagine he's still putting up with me after 20 years?
Oh, come on, man. You're easy to put up with. Come on.
Easy, because he's one of the guys I like to pick his brain on,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he's seen it all, so he knows what happened, with Lou Thesz or Ric Flair versus Brody or Abdul. I mean, he brought in Abdul the Butcher and Brody and had them wrestle at a high school for him. So I mean, he knows everything about wrestling. So you gotta take the time and pick his brain.
Pick it while it's still pickable.
Right.
That's right. Man. We all end up that way. But when you talk about like people, like when we're doing this podcast, they don't realize how tall or big you are. I got the same thing because I used to have this guy come on, PJ Savage. You see me, do podcasts, whatever. He finally sees me in person. He's like, holy shit, you're tall, man. So I know what you're talking about when you're talking about that.
Right. You only get to see this little square, but you don't get to see me in action or something, But I just fell in love with wrestling. Even to this day, if I don't talk about wrestling or watch a wrestling match every single day, there's something wrong with me. Because even if I'm sick, I'm sure I still got YouTube on and I'm trying to find something. I mean, if you looked at my house, you would think it just swallowed my whole. Because I got, old posters, old wrestling at the Chase programs. And I'm a big wrestling figure collector. So I got them all over the house too. So, I mean, it's life.
Do you collect any of the Funko Pops, the WWE ones?
I got a few. Matter of fact, my youngest son just got me the newest Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, the ones that.
Yeah, the cover ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm looking for an original CM Punk one. I can't find, like, in a good condition.
Oh yeah.
Can't find them anywhere.
Well, I tell you, I go through the eBay route too, and search things out that way too. But
I can't find it anywhere. eBay, Mercari, any of those sites. I can't find a good one in a good box. I found the one in the pink trunks.
Oh, yeah.
In a good box. That cost me like $400.
Well, I tell you, besides Power Town, there's another place that just did a Bruiser Brody. It's something Sailors is the website. I'll have to remember it, but I just got that figure in not too long ago, and it's it's like the old Hasbro style of figures, but it's a Bruiser Brody, and they're selling out of that thing too because they got two versions, one with the chain and everything, and and they done sold out of that one, so I had to get the one without the chain. But
Oh,
man,
I need
tell
that.
you,
I need that link. You got to send me that link.
not a problem. I'll put it on your Facebook.
Yeah, definitely, man. I definitely want one. I'm
But,
still
you
trying to
know,
get the Powertown one. I can't find it. Only on
Yeah.
eBay.
Right. You know, being able to wrestle your idols, the people that you grew up watching, because I'm lucky enough to have wrestled a few legends in my time.
Right.
You know, Bob Orton Jr. And I actually get to spend a lot of time with Bob Orton Jr. I'm one of the trainers at his East Wrestling Academy.
Okay.
So every week I get to sit down with a legend
That's awesome.
and work with these new trainees and try to teach them up and, you know, get them to, you know, get to the level where they can start replacing us old timers. So I wrestled guys like him. And like I said, Greg the Hammer Valentine was my first legend I ever got to wrestle. So I've met everyone that I grew up idolizing, you know, the Hulk Hogan, the Ric Flair, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And I tell you, about 75% of the reason why I got to meet them is that gentleman that's sitting down over there too. You know, Herb loves to bring in the legends, and he'll tell you, he goes, you know, besides the fans, for the fans, I bring them in for you guys. You know, they're here, pick their brain, have them watch your match, get them to give you some feedback on how you can get better. And, you know, 20 plus years of doing this, and legend after legend comes in, and there's not a better place to be than SICW.
Okay, awesome. I want to pick your brains real quick. Did you guys get a chance to see Iron Claw?
2 weeks before it opened, I was so lucky. I'm in the same boat too. I'm a podcaster as well. We go off of the Squared Ring podcast. And when they went to open here in St. Louis, I reached out and got a little favors in and got to see it before they actually, you know, opened it up to the public. I loved it for what it was. I'll say that. There's a lot of details that, you know, got shuffled around and got left out. But for what it was, because it's not a documentary, I think it's confusing a lot of people.
Right.
It's a movie based off of the Von Erichs. It's not a documentary of the Von Erichs, but it's a great movie.
Okay, Herb, what were your thoughts on it?
I haven't seen it, and I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that, but
Yikes!
I quit counting at about 200 questions that people text me or called me and wanted my opinion on. I'm a real critic when it comes to those type of things, and I think Jim just hit the nail on the head. This is not a documentary. This is a film. And I've heard, and I'm going to see it. I'm going to go watch it. There's no doubt about it. But I wanted to kind of let some people that I put trust in their faith that went. But some of the things that I've heard that I would really be critic of, you know, the Harley Race actor, you know, Harley was a southpaw, and the guy that was playing it punching right-handed. Those are the type of things that I really be critic about, you know. And so I've heard good reviews on it. So I'm glad everybody's enjoying it. I'm happy for Kevin. I talked to Kevin a week ago. He's living out of a suitcase again because the film's getting so much notoriety and traveling. I can't be happier for him because, you know, Kevin's from Illinois, from Belleville, Illinois, right where I live at. And I'm tickled to death for him that it's getting the good reviews that it is. But I will go see it, and then I'll have my opinion, but I'll keep them to myself after I do see it. And, that'll be in my book.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not as hard as a critic as Herb is, because he had lived through that, where I was just on the other end, just watching it as a fan at that point. Right. But you know, for what it is, I like the movie. It shows a lot about brothers' love. I mean, that's when it comes down to it. When you strip everything else away, it's the love of the brothers that they had for each other. And that movie clearly shows that. So,
well, and I think one of the things that Jim, and you saw, maybe you can confirm, I've been told by several people that they tried to portray that there was problems between Fritz and Sam Nick. And see, I'll be honest with you. If I was sitting there and if I saw that, I'd probably jump up and say, "You're full of poop," because I know what Sam thought of Fritz, and I know what Fritz and them would sit there and talk about. Not only when they'd be in person and when Fritz would be in town, but I'd hear phone calls on the one side of the conference. No crosswords. Sam was the peacekeeper. Fritz was the one who helped orchestrate it to Larry Matisek when he was going on his own after Vince came in behind the scenes, because that's kind of what was all happening. I mean, if you go back and look, and Jim, I know you have, when Larry started his own promotion after he left, he had Bam Bam Gordy up here. They were going to bring that whole Freebird Von Erich feud to St. Louis. Brody was involved in helping do all of that. So, if they tried to portray to me that Sam and Fritz had issues, that was the farthest thing from ever. So, and I don't know if that happened or not. That's just what I've been told by several people.
A little bit. A lot of the story that they were trying to tell was that how the Von Erichs couldn't get the title shots from the NWA champion that they wanted. And so I guess they kind of threw that out there of how disgruntled Fritz was and not getting those title shots. And I think that's why they threw in some heat, just to show how much he wanted those shots for his sons, and he wasn't able to get them because that Sam, he wasn't letting it happen, But like I said, it's not a documentary.
Yeah.
It's based off of.
I can tell you, David was destined to be the champion. That was pen to paper.
And they portrayed that in the film.
Did they? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, he was there was ink on the paper that was going to happen. And of course we know what happened there, and things got turned upside down. But David, and he'd have been a good one. There's no doubt about it.
What did you think of the film?
It really tugged at my heartstrings, the bond of the brotherhoods. And my brother was a big wrestling fan. He passed away. And the line that Zac Efron said at the end, where he was crying, his kids are playing, he's like, "I used to be a brother," that really hit me and got me very emotional. And I started to tear up. In the movie theater, probably the only one that was, but I was tearing up.
I've heard from many people that went and saw it, basically said the same thing.
That line hit me hard.
And I know I've got one lady and she's not a big wrestling fan, but she took her brother and her husband and they went and watched it. And she told me, she said, you know her, I'm not a big fan. She said, but it brought tears to my eyes. Right. And she said, just the way they portrayed it and the story of it. So I know what you're talking about. People have told me
it really hit me hard. And when my brother passed away, like right before Christmas, a couple of weeks before, and my mother had gotten him like this DVD set of SmackDown and stuff like that. And we talk about burying in caskets. She put those in his casket because he never got a chance to watch them.
Yeah, there you go.
So it brought all those emotions back for me,
Yeah.
Very touching, man. Very touching. All right. Before I start to cry, let's go back to FanFest. There you go.
Yep. May 17th and 18th. Like I said, Friday night, the 17th, Bill Apter is going to be there. One-man show. That's the VIP. You can go on sicw.org. If you want to just see that Friday night, you'll have to have a ticket to get in for that, of course. But if you want to come just to the Fan Fest, that's on Saturday, May the 18th. And like I said, I think the last count I had was 57, 58. And I've got some of and I got to mention, GT Collectibles, Scott Wilder Promotions, people like that. And I've got other vendors that are calling me and saying, "Hey, have you got room for more vendors? Like, we'd like to bring somebody in." So I would be surprised if we're not up around that 65 mark between now and May.
Wow, crazy! Last year I thought 50 of them was crazy, but I guess he's got it in him to do it. Bigger is better. Gotta.
Well, and I tell people, as you've heard me say, Jim, Sam and Larry always said, it's if you're going to do something, do it big. And if you're going to do it a second time, you either got to do it as big or bigger. And so, and for be 51 years next month, as you know, I've done what Sam preached to us, Larry and I both. You know, keep your ears open and your mouth shut, unless you have to. And as you know, I can hold my own when it comes to that. But again, it's all about respect in this business. You know, you receive what you give, and that's what Sam always said as the peacekeeper that he was over the title. But I've been so fortunate. You've heard me talk about when you can talk to guys like Jerry Briscoe and Tito Santana, Ricky Steamboat. I mean, I can get on the phone and talk with Ricky forever. Jim Cornette, people like that have been everywhere and done everything in this business. A lot more than I'll ever dream of doing. But they still know that SICW is one of, if not the last of the promotions, independent promotions, that's keeping old school wrestling alive. You know, our TV studio tapings, as you know, Jim, you know, small studio, just like they did in the day, you know, we tape for, and, you know, you Papa, you're talking about your organization going to start doing that. And I don't know if that's how they'll do it, but we tape 4 segments and on a Sunday afternoon and put them out there and tell our storylines. And on a Sunday afternoon, we're doing it just like at Wrestling at the Chase. That little 30 or 40 studio audience we got seems to be 300 to 400 at times. When the Texans coming out, they know the big lariat's going to be thrown, and it's a wild time. So that's kind of what I pledged to, like the Bruiser Brody, as you can see him there behind me. I told his wife, as long as I've got breath in me, his name and legacy is going to live on. And that's why we do the Bruiser Brody Memorial. And of course, over the last few years since we lost Larry Matisek, and then my good friend and ex-partner over at South Broadway Athletic Club in St. Louis, we've added them to the Bruiser Brody, Larry Matisek, Tony Costa Memorial. And because it's only fitting that Tony Costa was my junior heavyweight champion for many, many years. And we traveled everything from the Boot Hills of Missouri up to Indiana when we were running head-to-head against Dick the Bruiser. And so I want to be able to contribute to pay homage to him, because he did a lot for the business, gave the boys another place to work. Jim, you worked over there, you know, at South Broadway. It was kind of, and they're still going to this day. Not as good as it was when Tony was there, but nobody can do it as good as Tony did over there. But they're still up and operating, and they're keeping the memories alive. And that's what we're doing with this Fan Fest. You know, everybody thinks I'm nuts and crazy for doing it, at least this big. But, you know, if it falls on his face, guess what? It falls on me. If it turns out good, it turns out good for everybody.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Fan Fest 2. Make sure you go to sicw.org to get your tickets. It's going to be a huge event. And who knows, maybe Papa Tank will be there too.
Yeah, I keep, we talked about that. Hopefully you can make it. You got to just, weigh the scales of justice.
I got to juggle. We'll talk about it a little bit after we hang up. All right, Big Texan, definitely got to have you on back here. Just me and you, one-on-one.
Yeah, not a problem.
Love to have you back. We'll talk about your history as well with everything and your collectibles and all that.
All right.
And we'll arrange that sometime in the future. Let everyone know where they can follow you.
Everything's pretty simple with me. Every social media, I go by Jim, the Big Texan Hofarth. So you can search it out. Like I said, I also do a podcast, the Squared Ring podcast. Everything is on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, SICW YouTube channel. You can find me on that show pretty much every week. Defending the best looking title in the world.
That is beautiful.
Hey, Jim, point out some of those, read some of those names to Papa that's on that belt. He may know a few.
I probably do.
So you got Dick the Bruiser, of course, King Kong Brody, Jack Briscoe, Dick Murdoch, Ted DiBiase,
Whipper Billy White.
Yeah, there we go. See, the reflection off this thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
And what we did, Papa, is everybody who was part of the wrestling at the Chase program that started in 1959, we put on those plates on there. And that's why we call it the SICW Classic title.
I love it, man. Beautiful, beautiful belt.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful thing.
Beautiful. Big Texan. Thank you, Herb. Let everybody know where they can follow you and SICW as well.
Well, they tell me I'm the easiest guy to find. Herb Simmons on social media, on Facebook. If you need to email me, promoter at sicw.org. If there's somebody else out there wanting to add up to the Big Fan Fest, just hit me up or call me, 618-719-1034.
I think AJ Kazan is going to call you.
I'm trying to get him a sponsor. That's what I need. I'd love to have him in. It'd be great. He'd be a great addition. But there's a few other surprises coming. I mean, a couple of big surprises to add to it. So, hopefully if they come through, then boom, we'll even make it bigger.
Awesome. All right, guys. As for me, coming up next for me, I got Wrestling Is Now's Heart Attack, brought to you by the Maximo brothers, the SATs, as their world champion. Joey Conway faces Ace Romero, and he will be with the Slime Balls, who have just signed with the NWA. Congratulations to them. Crowbar will also be in attendance. Johnny Cashmere, the new backseat, Mike the Truth Jackson, who knocked out CM Punk in the UFC, will be there.
Ooh,
and also making his wrestling debut is Big Body Bez. He is a recording artist, and he is going to wrestle for the first time that night. So definitely go to Wrestling Is Now to get your tickets. That's going to be huge. As well as my friends at Victory Pro Wrestling. They have the King of New York on February 17th. Make sure you go to Victory Pro Wrestling to get your tickets. As for my friends at Titan Championship Wrestling, they have Wrestlers to the Rescue, where they are doing a benefit show for the Shriners Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. 100% of the proceeds will go to Shriners, and I am an official sponsor and a proud sponsor of this event as well. And I'm so excited. Coming up next, go ahead.
So I'm just going to chime in too. So we actually have done a couple of shows for our local Shriners as well. And I currently hold their title too, because they created a title for all the events that they hold. And so I'm currently their heavyweight champion as well.
That is awesome.
Yep.
What else I got? I got Zach Chamberlain. I don't think I have his graphic up, but coming up at 8:30, Zach Chamberlain. And tomorrow, I have the one and only Cotton Candy Princess, Tiffany Avatar, joining me at 7 o'clock. She's got an announcement that she's going to spring on my podcast, and I can't wait to see what it is. Very excited.
There you go. Yeah.
She's making waves up here in the Northeast.
Always like them surprises, I'll tell you. Well, as you know, when I come in there, sometimes some of your guests know us down here.
They do.
So to send them our way, because like I said, we're all about, even though territorial days are technically gone, we still have a couple of different organizations we work with in Arkansas, Missouri, up in Iowa area, Minnesota. Right. So we swap boys and girls back and forth. So tell them to get a hold of me. I'm easy to negotiate with.
I'm trying to help out Tiffany. Tiffany is a great talent.
Yeah, good.
Great talent.
Ever get
Let's say goodbye to everybody on Instagram real quick, and everybody else have a good night, guys. Hold on.